Well, hello, friends. Today, I had some very enjoyable radio time on in the shack, which I haven't had in years. And one of the reasons for such enjoyable time in the shack is I've gotten finally, after many years of thinking about it and talking about it, I finally got some RF switching hooked up in the shack, and I thought I'd give a little video about the RF switching. And to do that, I thought maybe it's time I did a little shack tour. Shack is in a bit of a shambles, a mess at the moment, but it may be in good enough shape to give a basic tour on. And so, this is a room we built over the garage. It looks bigger because I'm in wide angle mode, but it's about 20 by 20 feet, exactly the size over a two-car garage. And it used to be just an attic space, and we had it finished when we were doing other parts of the house, the kitchen, etc. And the shack is centered on this one table, which is the main operating table. Trying to get back. This table is 10 feet long, and it is 4 feet deep, which is really important, so you can see the depth of it, which allows me to have these radios, which some of which are quite deep. I mean, these Harris radios are at least 20, 21, 22 inches deep, and still have room for a lot of, stuff that shouldn't be on an operating table, but is anyway, including computers and keyboards, etc. This table, I was able to purchase it when Borders Books near me, the Borders Books in Mount Kisco, New York, went out of business. They were selling a lot of their fixtures, and my wife and I heard about it just in time, ran over there and put some bids in for this. Now, this table underneath it, which I won't show, has rather substantial, like 3-inch wide steel L brackets. Runs the length of it. I think there's a better mechanical term for it, but it's a brace that runs the entire length, 10 feet, a solid piece of L channel, and I think there are two of them on this thing, and it is serious. It is probably an eighth of an inch or thick steel. So this thing will hold, as you can see, lots and lots of weight, and I stand on it all the time to get behind these radios here, and it's just a fact. It is the luckiest thing I was able to get this. Really, really lucky. And in addition, I'm not going to go too much into the repair part of the shack here, but I also have another. This is, I think, a 6-foot bench, a 6-foot table, also from Borders, and we bought a bunch of Borders stuff. We have lots of it because we figured there's such good tables. And again, it's deep enough, 4 feet deep, that I can have test equipment. And the test equipment is pretty deep stuff too, 22, 23 inches deep, some of these things, and still have lots of room in the front of it to do work. And so, here's my repair bench. I'm not going to go into too much detail because today's really about RF switching. And I've got some teletypes you may have seen on some videos, and some TMC test equipment. Let's look a little bit more around the shack and see what we've got. So this is sort of the main thoroughfare, if you can call it that, down the main operating table on the left. In the back, I've got some bookcases, and I'll do more on that side, and I'll do more on the left. So let's take a closer look at what we have. So here we have a World War II ARC-2, ARC-2, which is an HF, probably to 9 megahertz. I don't exactly recall the details. HF radio. It runs off a dynamotor that is built into it, and it's a transceiver, actually. So a very convenient little unit used in aircraft of the time. And as a transceiver, it's very convenient not to have a separate receiver and transmitter. A little LS3 speaker generally. We'll just look across the top and then we'll look at the bottom. Here we have a BC375. I made a very brief cameo in a video I made about dynamotors. This is great. I hope to get this on 75, 80 meters AM. That's AM as well, I should mention. In the middle here, we've got a great little unit here, which is from a company called LP, Telepost. And it is I think it's Telepost. Hope that's right. I'll put the right stuff in the bottom if I've got that wrong. It is a combined monitor and SWR power meter. So you can see power and SWR. You can see high water marks. You can also look at different modes. So here you can see the station monitor, meaning you could see the RF in the time domain. Other things. It's got a lot of features. Many of them I'm still coming up to speed with. Very convenient, very nice, modern thing. In fact, let's see, can I get a little RF to show up here? All right, so I'm just keying up a transmitter into a dummy load. I'll show you more about this later. And you can see 110 watts and 1.03 SWR. And let's just, for shits and giggles, I guess at some point I could really do it better. Oops. I'll have to figure out why. I think I gotta change the channel too. All right, you can have multiple channels. All right, and so just a very nice, convenient, modern station monitor. Moving right along, underneath it, I should mention that this is a controller for a Roden Schwartz antenna coupler that I have in the backyard. It's a big monster, and it is feeding a 43-foot vertical. I have about, 10 or 11, not too many, 10 or 11 radials on that. This was not working for the last year, and I was completely QRT for that entire year. Now we're back in business, and we'll talk more about that. Here is a very beautiful, really beautiful, let's get this RCA radio. This is the a part of the RDM1, which is a RDF. A diversity receiving system. It's a gorgeous unit. It's a relative of the AR88. I believe this is the AR89 or CR91. I can never exactly remember, but it's part of the RDM1, which is a dual or triple. It might be a triple receiving diversity system, and it comes in a very, very rare original shock mount case for it. This thing is beyond heavy, just beyond heavy. I literally could not lift half of this. One side of it I couldn't even lift. Thank God I've got a son and a friend who they're both in their early 20s, and this is no problem for them. All right, moving right along. Here we've got the famous RBB on the left and the RBC on the right. These are post World War II and post World War II receivers of incredible quality. Again, these are RCA design units, and just a phenomenal quality and amazing sounding. Both of these are going to need some bench time. Above them, we have the original and properly paired pan adapters, the RBU on the left and the RBV on the right. And these let you see the signals up and down the band, and also be able to detect see what kind of signal you're listening to. Although these receivers are AM modulated CW and CW. Above that, just happens to be sitting there but does not belong there, is a Harris RT2301 transceiver. That I've just stuck it there because I was doing work in other parts of the shack. Um, so that's a beautiful little unit. All right, and let's see. Now let's go to the second level. All right, on the left here, not very visible. Let me put a little light on. Not very visible in there is a TCS setup, which again is like 1.5 to 9 megahertz, 10 megahertz, something like that. Transceiver, one of the most popular and most widely used sets of radios probably in history. They were used on all kinds of ships, all kinds of boats, all kinds of, you name it, they were used. So very, very common. Really cool little unit, 40 watts. I believe it's 40 watts AM. You won't hold me to that. Oh yeah, frequency is 1.5 to 12. And there's a separate, on the top is the transmitter, on the bottom is the receiver. I've got, it runs also on a dynamotor. That, a lot of the stuff that you see here is going to need some bench time. Next to it, you see the BC342N receiver, and below that, the ART13 transmitter. I've made some very preliminary videos on the ART13. You can see them. And then finally, kind of one of the mainstays of my operating is this Harris setup on the top, on the very top. Well, here is some RF switching that I showed in the very beginning, and we'll talk about this. It may have to end up being a part two. We'll see how long this intro is. Here, let's see if I can get this. This is a Watkins Johnson, really beautiful, SIGINT type receiver, and the model number is the WJ. Well, the whole unit is like a 9040. This particular, it's got a couple of, it's a long story. All right, I'm not going to get into it. This particular receiver, it's a receiver only, 20 megahertz to 1400 megahertz. And yes, it has a little error message on it. And to the right is a very cool unit. It is essentially a pan adapter that you can select one of 5 different inputs for it, and on input 4 and 5, it uses a 455 megahertz IF, whereas on the VHF and UHF, the other channels, it is, I think, a 60, maybe it's 10.7 or 21.4 or 60 megahertz. I don't know exactly. I haven't gotten that far. But what I use it for is HF as a pan adapter to the RF 590, and because it has the 455 kilohertz IF input, really convenient. So here is the RF 590. A very very nice receiver. I do wish the color correction was a little better on this. It is not blue, it is green VFD, but it does show up as blue. Same thing here, it's green, not blue. Much nicer in the green than what the video is showing. And then below it, again, I've got lots of videos to show this, is a remote control, which is not, the far end is not powered up yet. And that runs the transmitter. All right, we've got a computer. I think everyone pretty much has one of those in the shack these days. Up here, I've got an antenna rotator, but this is just for a receiving loop. And I'll talk a little bit more about the antennas that I've got when I do the RF, finally get to the RF switching. Here is a monitor, audio monitor. It has 4 inputs, channel 1 through 4, a volume control, and a mute, which mutes them all. And something's channeling through it. And then here, this part of the table needs to get built up. I had some TMC equipment in here, receivers, and some other equipment, and I've sold a lot of it. So this part of the table has yet to really be replenished with an operating position. But the plan is to have this Central Electronics 100V, the very first ham piece of equipment I ever bought. Well, I should say the first piece of ham transmitter I ever bought. I did have boat anchor receivers. it is close to working condition. It was rebuilt at some point. And just sitting in front of it for shits and giggles is I've got this this Sun Air RT9000B. Again, it is not a blue background. It is a green background. I wonder if I can fix that in my video editor. I've never played with that. This is a new addition to the shack. Let's see. I don't know if I guess it's not plugged in. This is a very high-end receiver, Roden Schwartz, 10 kilohertz to 30 megahertz, the EK890. And I thought it'd be fun to play with. All right, now here we've got a I don't know what this is, 7-foot, 6-foot rack. Let me see if I can zoom out. Bunch of things here. A Nixie clock I made many years ago. Haven't powered it up in a while. I need to probably replace the caps. I've got some audio processing. This is a PPM monitor, an audio signal level monitor. It's got 4 inputs, but I put 2 together on the left, 2 together on the right. I will do a whole separate video on audio routing in the shack. This is my audio routing system. It allows me to take any audio output and put it to any audio input. So whether that's terminal units, PCs, receivers, transmitters. It just lets me configure anything ad hoc as I want, or I can also set presets. So if I'm doing, one particular RIDI or on one particular setup, I can do that pretty easily. This whole audio system is going to warrant a complete separate video. Sideband adapter. This is another Harris unit, the URC94. Beautiful little unit. And some boat anchors and some miscellaneous stuff like that. All right, we keep going. Here's some bookshelves with various manuals and books. Here is a little display area where I keep some sort of unique things that are not in an operating position, but I would like to have them display. Won't go into too much detail. Now let's look at this side. Let's look at this side of the shack. All right, let's start again back here. And like I said, it's in a bit of disarray. So here's the other side of the main fairway. And one of my other favorite manufacturers is Technical Materiel Corporation from Mamaroneck, New York. And here is a PAL 500, PAL 500, 500-watt linear amplifier. And some other associated parts with it. These systems were modular, and there were always many components that you put together to make a system. For example, this is sort of the exciter for it. It's more like a sideband selector. Anyway, long story. GPR 92, fairly uncommon radio. It is a receiver, and just a really gorgeous thing. Some other TMC stuff. Here we've got a little corner of the shack for Collins, and I've got a 51J4 receiver paired up with this transmitter. I don't know if I can how much I could really squeeze into this. That's pretty much it. I'll have to scan it. This is the 30K4, quite venerable. I think it's from 1952, thereabouts. And this is working, although I have some problem with it where I key up the mic and I get electrocuted. I don't think it's RF. I think it's 120 volts. So one of these days I'll get around to it. These are paired together. I'm going to replace the 51J4 with a 72A2 that I got, and you might have seen about, 6 months ago, a video I did on it from a Hamfest find. Here you've seen probably ad nauseum is the Harris transmitter, the 1140A transmitter system. And then down here we've got a little what I call transmitter alley. Again, in a bit of disrepair at the moment. Down here is a Sun Air 1 kilowatt amplifier and some other Sun Air equipment. This is the rear side of the test bench where I can get to all the rear of the test equipment, which is so convenient. There's so much So many things. Just looking at any random unit here, you can see there's all kinds of inputs and outputs. All of these things have all kinds of inputs and outputs, and GPIB. I enjoy playing around with automating tests, and so everything's networked together with that. Very convenient to be able to get to the rear of it. Here we've got some various miscellaneous things. Here's a frequency standard for the shack. It is a GPS disciplined oscillator from the company Datum, pretty well known in the space. At the moment, it's not locked or not tracking. It comes and goes, but I use it as a 10 megahertz reference for anything, including the test equipment or the receivers and transmitters. Here we've got, and actually both of these are distribution amplifiers, 10 megahertz distribution amplifiers, some cool old stuff, more cool old stuff. And at the bottom is my another frequency standard. This is a primary frequency standard. Actually, it is a cesium clock. I don't know if I can get any detail on that. So this is an atomic clock, which I thought was really cool, that the prices have come down so much. This came out of a telecom tower to keep everything on frequency. And just amazing that you can now own an atomic clock in your house. Very reasonably priced, a couple $100, I think. Okay, more documentation, more stuff. 74 5A4, old stuff, ARB, Hammerland, TMC GPR 90s. This is the BC 223. All kinds of fun stuff. And then, yeah, this is the last. I don't think I went over this one. It's mostly miscellaneous things in this rack. This is a submarine VHF UHF receiver. Various bits and pieces of it. These are my terminal units, HAL ST6 terminal units for when I run my teletype machines. Other HAL equipment, little paper tape reader. Some antenna multi-couplers. These came out of FRD10, which is like a woolen Weber. It's an elephant cage style direction finding system. All right, that was a long. Maybe I should finish this video. So this is the repair bench. Maybe somebody can go into less zoom here. Various equipment. My favorite scope, which is a LaCroix. I'm a big fan of LaCroix. Power supplies, signal generators, LC, capacitor, inductor tester, my solder stuff, dual channel power supply, storage of stuff. And I'll just give a quick look at the test equipment. Electronic load, power supplies, vector network analyzer. This is the 8566B. Spectrum analyzer, frequency counter, signal generator, miscellaneous stuff. This is a power meter. This is a Genrad RLC checker. Signal generator, VNA, miscellaneous stuff, etc. Okay, and this is where I keep stuff that needs to get worked on. Lots of projects in the queue, and I realize now this has been a long video, so I think I'm going to end it here, and we'll do a part 2. We might post the part 2 almost immediately. But we'll do that about the RF switching in the shack. I will mention that the reason for all the RF switching is because, as you noticed, I have a lot of radios. I want to be able to play with all of them, and I have a handful of antennas now. I had 0 up until about a month ago, and now I've got 3, and plus some other ones that we'll talk about. So I needed some convenient way to switch all of these things and not have to sit there plugging in and unplugging coax. And I'll just quickly give a give you a show. It's based on the Ham Plus, a company out of Brazil, and then I'll also show a little bit back there. Anyway, that's just a teaser, and I'll do a second video on the RF switching itself. Hope you enjoyed the tour.